Welcome to Seizing Valor, where we discover God's path for manhood, one conversation at a time. I'm Josh.
I'm Joe.
And I'm Zach. And now we got cool sound effects. Every good podcast needs stingers.
No, it's good. It's a lot of fun.
Give us another one,
Thank
Josh.
You guys. Thank you. Thank you.
There we go. We have our own
a
approval.
little more depth.
Yeah, we just need a laugh
silliness.
track. That's all we need. Because
Speaking
then
of
we can be funny
speaking
even when
of
we're
depth, do you have a low voice?
I do have a low voice. Oh, yes, I do.
Excellent.
I have a really high voice.
So, just we can annoy all of our listeners.
Makes
Well,
a
Josh,
good
we haven't
podcast.
seen you in like 2 whole weeks.
I know.
So
I
tell,
know.
tell us
That,
tell
guys.
us things.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's just been, crazy family experience, existence. Lost some babysitting because of people doing some trips. So I had to be around a little bit more to watch the kiddos. So that's why I wasn't able to make it last time. So I apologize, gentlemen.
No, not at all.
I've been doing a lot of cleaning, which is nice. Get the house back in order. After all of this, kids were sick for a long time and now they're not. Like everyone's good and back to good health, which is great. And yeah, I mean, it wasn't too eventful. It was just a couple weeks of getting back into the routine of things and having some good talks with the wifey and getting life back together after a month of craziness. So it's good.
Mm.
Good on you, man. Vocation comes first. That's what we said last time. So
Yeah.
you're doing the good Lord's work in your own household there. So
Yeah, we
And
had
we're
like a
just
long,
sitting-
we had like a long chat last night, which was good. Talking about the future and kind of where we're at and making sure that we're on the path that we want to be on.
Yeah.
So it's always good to like have those moments where it's like, okay, let's just take a break. Let's take a second here. Let's get out some emotion. Let's talk
Get on the
this
same
through.
page.
Yeah, make sure that we're
Yeah.
solid. And then yeah, exactly. And so it was a really, really good talk.
And life's full of those things. I know some people might be under the conception that either you get everything set one time or like you always have it together or whatever. It's like, no, like life's all about reassessing, readjusting, communicating. Life's all about those points of, I think we all need to realize we need to do that a little bit more often, is to stop and reassess and readjust and all that stuff. So any other interesting happenings or interesting words for us?
Let's see. Well, I'm going headlong into making music, which is cool. So
Ooh.
this last class that I took, it was music copyright and business. So I knew a little bit already about some of the copyright laws and different stuff regarding that, but I learned so much on the business end. And basically, what I've learned is like the way that the culture is in like the business end of music today is it's a lot easier for independent artists to become like to just earn a living. Because of the different, digital whatever and mechanical royalties and license fees and all this stuff. And all of that was really encouraging because the whole class was like basically lined out like, listen, you believe this whole lie, you believed your whole life this lie that musicians can't make a living. And what this class was about was like, that's not true. Like debunking that lie, and especially in the digital age that we're in now. And so I was really encouraged by that.
Yeah, it
So
must be very encouraging. Yeah.
it was 100%. Because I have a backlog. I have tons of songs that I've just recorded, just original music that I've created and whatever. Just never did anything with it because I was never like, I was like, well, for what? Like for my 20 followers and like family and friends just to listen to. But the way that this, class was, it was like, no, just do it. Just release it, get it out there in the airwaves, and it'll give you something. So yeah, so I was really encouraged by that. And so I'm working on releasing my first full-length album soon. I'm going to release a single here in the next couple weeks. And I'm going to try to be better about advertising and all that stuff, trying to get it out there. And then with the hope of releasing a full-length album by the end of the year.
You'll have two customers in us, right, Joe?
Oh yeah, I'm
Right.
paying.
Awesome.
Overtime.
Love it.
All right.
Tell me something good, Zach.
So let's see, what did I do? I mean, the biggest thing I did this past week, I went to see some of our old college friends. There was a gathering, a much bigger gathering than I realized it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a few people. because Zach, the other Zach, tall Zach, last name redacted for the sake of privacy here, but taller Zach, him and Sylvia, his wife, were coming down to see everybody from Vermont. So they
Nice.
decided he just texted a bunch of he texted me. I didn't know, he doesn't really do group messages or anything, I don't think, or he doesn't have or an iPhone or whatever. So he just said to me to be there, and I didn't know how many other people were going to end up being there. It was literally like 14 people, which was pretty awesome. But so they're having a baby, so I'm not sure if that's
Nice. Congrats, guys.
So they are expecting, and they revealed to us that it is a girl. So they're expecting a baby girl come November. So congrats to them. I hope they're okay with me saying that over a podcast. But I mean, it's anyway, so let's for anybody listening, say some prayers for them, so that as they encounter this new part of their vocation, caring for a newborn child. So yeah, it was really good to see them. We had some other people, like Ross, the twins, Sylvia's a twin, but not those twins. So like Matt and Tom, and Ross and his brother Paul, and Paul's girlfriend, but yeah, so like a really big group of people were there. So we went to eat, and we just hung out, kind of like the good old days. We were in Ross's house now, because now we're older, we're not in a dorm room, and just played games and hung out. And for some of the newer people, we were like, yeah, we used to do this with like double the people and half the space, and like the old Quint room with like barely any furniture, and just reminiscing. So it was really good. It was a really good time. It felt really, it's amazing how like once you're gone from a place for a really long time and you come back, you like have a different perspective of it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. It's so good to be back. I'm in the midst of the job hunting. That's the biggest development for me. So Josh, on the last podcast, the announcement was made that I am not going to law school now. So just kind of discerned that it was not really what the path that I was supposed to be going down, and there was just like doing things for a lot of the wrong reasons, and different anxieties and things about doing it. So just long time thinking, figured out that it wasn't the right thing for me, so I stepped away. So now I'm in the job hunt. So this week I got at least one interview, maybe more, and so now I'm on the hunt. And
yeah,
so just
I remember last week you said it was kind of like something that was like the thing to do. Like law school, you thought it was like the thing to do, but then after a while, it just wasn't what you wanted.
Yeah, I just figured it's like it lined up with some of the things I was good at, and I was kind of like a smart guy, and it's like I'm a smart guy, I should maybe do a thing that smart people are expected to do, type of thing. And in the end, like I really didn't want it that much. Like it wasn't like I will endure this 3-year really difficult thing in order to get this thing I want on the other side. It was like, I'm going to endure this 3-year difficult thing for something that maybe I kind of am interested in, maybe a little bit, but I'm not really sure. So it was that idea, is that the step away, reassess, rediscern kind of like what I want to do. Who knows? Maybe I'll end up coming back and do it for the right reasons. But for right now, I'm not really in the space, I don't think.
You weren't gung ho about
do it
right now.
Yeah. So once again, on the job hunt, interviewing. So that's fun and stressful at the same time, and all that jazz. But I'm looking forward to going out, be in the working world again, maybe start a new career path, hike it out, or go venture out on my own, maybe try up in a different city. And so that's where I'm at right now. So now I'm in kind of a period of waiting, or like an active waiting. Yeah, so just kind of dealing with the excitement and also the anxiety that comes with that. That's most of my week. That's been the main focus. So yeah.
Nice.
Joseph,
hi,
your turn. You took the big trip, the big jump across the country.
Yeah, so as of not terribly long ago, within the last 4 years, I've been doing like lots of solo trips, and I think 4 years ago I went to Montana, Wyoming, went to Yellowstone, all the works. 3 years ago was London on my own. 2020 there was nothing, because for obvious reasons, for the unspecified virus of unknown origin. Last year I went to Acadia in Maine, never been to Maine. And then this time I went to Utah, Nevada, stepped foot on Arizona like once in my travel, and then barely California. Flew into Vegas first off, avoided that city like the plague, and went into my rent-a-car and just drove for about 3.5 hours to Bryce Canyon, which was amazing. saw all the hoodoos. The following day, on Wednesday of last week, I woke up, saw the sunrise on that national park, Bryce Canyon National Park, and then I went immediately into a trail for about 1.5 miles. It's 1.5 miles one way, 1.5 miles back the other way, and I just got lost
on just like a regular trail. You got
yeah,
lost.
but like you go into the canyon, and it's pretty cool by that point. It was like 65, but I ended up walking for like 8 miles. not the 3
Dude.
miles. It was just, yeah, I just didn't know, there weren't enough signs, so whatever. So I'm walking back where I'm thinking I'm going, back up like the mountain, and I'm like, this is vaguely familiar. And then lo and behold, the next thing I knew, I was kind of scaling a cliff.
Joe, man. Just get the grappling hook and just like,
great.
I just got to get to the top. The little bat grappling hook.
There's definitely going to be a picture while I'm talking about this. But yeah, I felt like Mission Impossible 2 when Tom Cruise is scaling in Utah. It wasn't the Grand Canyon, it was like some state park. You know what I'm talking about, Josh?
Yeah, and he's like,
Yeah. It wasn't quite that extreme, but it felt like that.
There should have been a video diary of some sort of like, in case I don't make it. This is Joe. It's been an hour since I've started. I have no idea where I am. Here's a rock.
It's like the
there's
Survivor
another rock.
Man episode from The Office. Like,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I tore off my pants and put them on my head to protect myself.
The following day, I was in Zion National Park, which is about 1.5 hours south. I hiked inside the canyon, which had like a big river, and I put on water shoes, and you just hiked about. It goes for about 10 miles, but I only went because there was going to be a flash flood warning. I went for about 5 miles, and then turned back, which is great. Like, you're with other people, so it's not like you keel over and like no one's going to help you.
You can't get lost, right?
No, you won't get lost. No. But definitely when I started seeing clouds, and I was like, I should probably turn back. Yeah.
Oh, come on, Joe. You were a swimmer. You got this.
Yeah, I know, but like, I'm imagining like
if you go up it in the flash flood, if you're going upstream and you get the flash flood, it'll take you down fast. You're like, I don't have to walk. Whee!
Well, it was faster going back, but I'm imagining that scene in The Mummy 2, Brendan Fraser, The Mummy 2, where it's just like coming at you. Like Imhotep is just like with this big like mouth, like gonna eat you.
I feel like not enough people talk about that movie. I love
The Mummy
that movie.
1. Oh yeah, I would
Both
much
the
rather
movies.
be doing like I would much rather be watching that movie, than like doing my job. I wish my job was like watching that movie like straight through the first one.
Just
getting
what a
paid
thing
to
to compare it to.
Just
It's just
getting
like,
paid to
man,
watch
I would
Brendan
so much
Fraser.
rather not be doing my job than doing my job. Ooh.
So waiting, right? Waiting.
Yeah.
All right,
so
we're
gonna be talking
we
about
should.
waiting.
I think we should have like a whole minute of silence to make people wait for this.
that would be.
How did that make you feel, audience? How did it make you feel?
If you're like me,
Let us know in the comments.
painful-
We'll see you next week.
a painful thing. Yeah, waiting for, at least for me, it's truly painful, especially if we're at a seasoning of it. Seizing Valor. A season of waiting is actually very painful. If you're listening to this and you're in a waiting season, listening to this video, maybe a job that you're after, or waiting for your future wife, your future husband, you feel unfulfilled in some area of your life, this video is definitely for you. Just for you guys. When we wait, do you guys like try to be patient and talk to God almost immediately when you feel like that sense of urgency, or do you struggle? You try to manipulate the situation, speed up the process? What do you guys do, like, initially?
So I'm not a very patient person, to be honest. So I definitely struggle with that. Whenever I'm in a period of waiting, I'm just like, why? Like, why? I don't have to wait.
I know it's your plan, but like, can we speed up the plan?
I mean, come on.
Did you
But
forget?
that's usually my experience. I get pretty impatient.
Yeah. I find myself like struggling like to not speed up the process of something too. Though as of recent, in the last like year or so, like I've turned him a lot more, when this anxiety has been brought up, which has brought me a lot more patience. But it's going to be a struggle for the rest of my life, because I want to like, only rely on myself, which is not the way. I'm a guy that wants things done, now.
Yeah. And I totally agree. I'm in the same boat with you guys. I'm like the rest of our culture. I'm into that instant gratification or instant resolution. And whether, I mean, this is like even in my everyday life, like I'm like, you know, you get, or like, I want to finish that season of television now instead of waiting, or like, I want to pay off my whole car loan now instead of like doing it responsibly in increments. Like, I want to do it all now. I don't want things hanging, and I want things now. Or, and like, especially, you know, when it comes to like suffering or something, like people want, like, I want it to be gone now. I want it to be, and patience is very much suffering. Fun fact that the word patience, I'm pretty sure it comes from the Latin word that's like, I don't remember, it's patio, it's something like that, but it comes from the same root as passion, which actually passion means to suffer. So, you know, some people think passion might be like love, but like, no, passion's actually to suffer. So patience actually kind of literally means like a period of suffering. Like, it literally means having to suffer. And our culture,
Yeah, which we do not like as a culture,
yes,
which you've already
no,
established.
we do not like. We are super into comfort in this culture, and so therefore waiting is a no-no because waiting requires discomfort, kind of that it either like, I don't know when it's going to happen, I don't know if it's going to happen, like all that stuff, and we don't like that. And so that's why, you know, our whole culture is about avoiding waiting, because waiting's uncomfortable. And you know, we're not above that, obviously, because we hate waiting too, because it's uncomfortable. But kind of, Joe, like what you said, like trying to force the process, like I'm kind of in that space sometimes. Like, I kind of feel, especially recently, I've been going through some stuff, and you know, just some like mental health stuff, or sometimes even some physical health stuff, and just like trying to, like, I want it cured now, I want it figured out now. What is that like one thing, that one dramatic thing that I have to do to make this all better? Like, what is that one thing, when that's not usually the way that it works? Sometimes it's like it's a process. It's like doing little things over time and waiting and letting time and action heal. But I keep being like, I want to do it now, I want it to be gone now. And so I think you kind of almost like had an analogy last time when we brushed on waiting, this idea of like if you're baking cookies, you know, if it's supposed to be 350 degrees for 10 minutes, you don't turn it up to 3,500 degrees for 1 minute. That doesn't turn out the same.
No.
You know, you get burned, and you know, it doesn't taste good, and it doesn't get cooked on. You get burned on the outside and uncooked on the inside. So it's like, that's
Big old mess.
Yeah. So if we speed up waiting, sometimes that's kind of like what happens. It's like we're trying to.
Well, yeah, when we have this type of pain, and whatever it may be, internally or physically, we want to relieve it ultra quick. You know, like when we get sunburn, you know, we want to put on that aloe almost immediately. You know, if we have a stub toe, take that ibuprofen. But can we speed up healing? You know, just like that. Like, does it take time?
I guess it's also partly us trying to take control of the situation too. Like, we want things on our time. And as kind of the cookie analogy just demonstrates, is like, our time is usually probably not the right time. Like, it's like we're hasty, and you know, that old adage goes, haste makes waste. So usually if God's holding something back from us, like, we think it's because it's like injustice of some kind. It's like, why are you holding back from me? It's because you're mean. It's no, because God knows that it's, you gotta take time. You gotta have it at a different time. You have to either become ready, or like it needs to be given to you over a period of time, or like something like that. It's just like God knows when we need things and how long it takes. And I guess, yeah, we're hasty.
Yeah, and I'm definitely just in my own personal life right now. This is 100% what I'm going through, and what my wife and I are kind of dealing with since I've been unemployed for as long as I have been. Now it's almost 8 months, 9 months that I've been unemployed. And so given that, it's like, well, I'm trying. It's not like I'm just sitting around. I'm doing resumes, I'm applying, I'm, you know, all of that. I'm trying to find other outlets even to my employment. And so we just keep wondering, like, all these doors just keep shutting in our faces, and we're just begging God that, like what's going on? Like, why, you know, why is this taking so long? Why do we have to wait?
What's your purpose for me? Yeah,
exactly. So I definitely feel that. And so just living through it, it is hard. It is not easy. It is not easy. This has definitely been probably the hardest year in a while, I would say, just from that perspective, because it is very frustrating. It's so hard to wait. And when you feel like there's silence, especially, you know, in your prayer, and maybe you're feeling that there's not a lot of responses, that can really, really shake you, you know. And so
Yeah.
I've definitely been feeling that. Definitely been feeling that. And it is an important reminder, and that's what's been on our hearts, right? Is the Lord is just saying, wait, like just wait, something's coming, and you just gotta sit still, and the cookies are in the oven, and you're gonna be eating soon. So yeah, I can say, if you're, for people listening, like I feel you if you're struggling with waiting.
Yeah,
I'm
if you're
there.
if you're in a waiting season, it means that God is preparing you for something huge.
Yeah.
We don't know what it
that-
is, and that's the magic of the waiting. But that also comes from the pain too. Pain means that like healing is it's coming, and it's probably already even if we don't see him doing something, he's working.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I would even say the counter can be true too, is that in the periods where God is preparing, it's like those moments of temptation, and Satan is also working just as hard too. They can make those,
Yeah.
that kind of that play where like the Lord's preparing something amazing for you, but it, like that effort that I still need to remain, close to him and dear to him, even though Satan's trying to pull me away. Like that's like a necessary, kind of a balance there, right? So like I have to draw near to the
glad that you
Lord
brought that up.
as I'm being tugged.
Yeah,
So,
I'm glad you
Yeah.
brought up. The enemy's going to try to help you, quote unquote, make you numb the pain. There's so many avenues with numbing the pain. If you don't feel pain, how do you expect to address it?
yeah.
If you keep
it
using
makes
that, if you keep using that ibuprofen, that aloe, how are you going to like feel and grow and
and you
recoup?
feel worse. Honestly, it makes you feel worse up and
Yeah.
down. So it's
Yeah.
yeah.
So that kind of goes something I was going to mention is this idea that, as we talked about, patience or waiting is a form of suffering. But I read something, I've been reading a lot. I've been listening and reading to a few things, and this kind of putting suffering in a new light, or stress. Oh, they were talking about stress, so to speak. So obviously waiting is something that inspires stress. So this idea between eustress and distress, and like all of it, like eustress is good stress. It's like the excitement that gets us to act and do things. Distress is the stuff that paralyzes us, that like kind of weighs down on us. And that we can't avoid stress in life. Like we can't avoid those challenges and those hurdles. And then another thing kind of talked about the same thing is this idea is that the cross, like a cross, is something that we all have to bear. It doesn't matter if we're Christian or not. Like the cross is coming, and we're going to have to bear it. But with both things said too, it's just about it's not about avoiding it. It's about how you approach it. Right. So if you approach it as something to be avoided, so if you avoid waiting as something to be avoided, then it's just going to cause stress. Like when it happens, you see it as a threat. But if you see it as a challenge to be overcome, or something that can make you grow, like an opportunity, then you approach it with eustress. And so then all of a sudden now it becomes something beneficial because it inspires you to act and to bear through it, and that type of thing. So this idea is that waiting, even in and of itself, even outside of whatever you're doing during the waiting, like waiting in and of itself is training you spiritually and mentally. Like it's training you to be able to be stronger. So this idea that like in lifting and stuff, in order to get gains, you have to hurt a little bit. You have to get sore and everything, but the soreness means you're getting stronger. So if you're suffering through having to wait, like you are making yourself stronger. So God is making you stronger through the waiting, like from a spiritual perspective. And that obviously takes on a lot of forms. But if you say like, I waited for this, then like it makes you spiritually strong. I mean, obviously there's more trust necessary in God. Then he's inviting you to trust him more. He's inviting you to become stronger. And usually anything that's worth getting is like, you waited for it. I mean, like, when you waited for something and it shows up, it's like, wow, this is amazing, versus where it's like, I want it and there it is now. It's like, oh, that was nice for a little bit, but
that instant gratification makes it worthless. More worthless than cheapens. There you go. That's
everything. The word. Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
And on par with that, Zach, I think that key word there is redemption. So the cross breeds redemption, and it's through that suffering that you are set free and are stronger, and so
the cross comes before the resurrection, so to speak. So like, God's making you wait, Josh, because he knows you can do it, and he knows that it's going to make you strong, and it's going to prepare you for whatever you have coming up. So
definitely. And I'm always like, I come back to that. I think it's in First Peter that says like the Lord's not going to give you more than what you can handle.
Yes.
Paraphrasing.
Yeah.
And so that line is like, it always is an important one to remember is that like you can get through anything, like, and the Lord's never going to push you beyond your limits. Like he's gonna push you, but it's never going to be, you know.
Yeah. And that, like, if you ask for a fish, you know, you won't be given a rock type of thing, or bread or rock. I don't remember the exact things, or fish or snake, whatever it is. If you ask for a good thing, he's not going to give you a bad thing. So like the waiting is not a bad thing. It's just part of the good thing. So
Exactly. Helps you appreciate it better.
I know I have the problem with this sometimes, is that sometimes I think like waiting is wasted time, so to speak. Like I have that temptation to think that waiting is like wasting, you know. It's like I'm supposed to be doing something, but I'm not doing it, or something like that, which obviously is ungodly self-reliance, but thinking that it's on me. But this idea is that, you know, that's a thing we like in our culture, that's a problem with our culture too, is that we feel like we need to be filled at every moment, and like we need to be doing something at every moment. And sometimes I think that I'm confusing waiting with apathy, I guess, is the thing.
One thing that I do when I have that perspective that waiting is wasting, because I suffer from that too. You know, you go back to the numbing or something that like you do a little bit too much as a distraction, which for me would be YouTube. But what are some other, you know, that's good in certain bits and pieces, but what's some other numbings that people might do in order to distract from this waiting period?
Well, obviously, social media, I think, is a huge one.
Instagram is a big one, yeah.
Yeah, well, I think
Ignore
of like,
our own reality.
yeah, exactly, and TikTok, you know, because that's something that like, and there's so many websites that are embracing this model of, you know, short bursts of whatever, and it really pulls you in. It's very addictive. So yeah, that's definitely a way that we distract ourselves.
And it's kind of like, as we mentioned, it's like this idea is numbing the pain is not making the waiting fruitful, because as we said, like pain is an indicator of strengthening. So if you avoid, or like the pain kind of strengthens you in a sense. So like if you avoid the pain, then you're not getting strong. You're not getting that strengthening. You're not getting that stronger. So you're not getting the benefit from the waiting if you're overly numbing yourself like that. So like, once again, we live in a culture that wants to numb pain, when not all pain is good. Pain is sometimes a receptor that, you know, something is wrong, but like that, knowing the difference and then seeing that this is productive waiting or productive pain, and like, you know, not avoiding that as much, because, you know, we're not going to get anything beneficial if we try to sidestep it.
Yeah. People that sidestep with social media, Instagram, Snapchat, alcohol, drugs, or even like abuse, like watching too many TV series, you know, you're swept into it and you forget the problems that we face. You know, oftentimes when God is working, you know, people hold on to those numbing things in secret, you know, in hiding, like from other people, but also try to hide it from God. And, you know, and when that waiting season like is hopefully going to be over, you know, we try to think like, maybe I'll let go of that numbing, that vice I was doing when the numbing is when the waiting season is over. But ultimately, like, you can't just let go of that addiction that you have like that quickly, you know, like you move on to the next like good thing. That isn't realistic.
Waiting doesn't necessarily mean being inactive. Actually, in some ways, like doing those social medias and everything is being inactive. Like you're not actually engaging or doing anything or preparing, but like waiting should be a time of preparation and prayer. And like, for example, like a woman gets pregnant, you know, she does it, and, you know, he's like, oh, I'm pregnant. So you have 9 months, obviously you have to wait. So obviously this is an amazing thing, something you cannot speed up, because obviously if you speed it up, that's dangerous for the baby. So you have to wait until that period is over. So that's a good example of waiting, necessary waiting, productive waiting. It's like, why can't the baby be here now? Especially at the end of the pregnancy, when they're like, oh, please just let this baby be out of here. And it's like, no, you've got to wait, because if you in the proper time. So that's like an example. But at the same time, when the woman finds out that she's pregnant, she doesn't go like, all right, I'm going to go sit on a chair I'm going to go sit down and wait 9 months. And, you know, when the baby's here, then we'll figure everything out. It's a time of like preparation. Obviously, Josh, you have kids. So, you know, this idea is like you guys are, you know, reading up, getting ready to figure out how to be good parents. You're buying, like you're getting the nursery ready, like you're getting the, like all the clothes and stuff, like all the diapers, and, you know, you're praying and like preparing yourself spiritually for like how your life's going to change. the woman is, or your wife, or the the woman in question is taking care of her body, like she's eating right, being active, sleeping right. Like you have to be active. You have to do things not like in a way that's like taking control of the situation, but you have to take advantage of the opportunity of waiting to be productive and be ready for what's to come. So like patience is, sometimes God speaks to you, it's like you're waiting because maybe there's a few, you gotta prepare a little bit first before you get here. It's like you're not ready right now, like you need to do some things first before you get the thing, type of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's a great
of
analogy.
course. Yeah, definitely. And I think that's something that I always juggle a lot. And again, I'm living through it right now.
How do you make it through the day when you're in this period of waiting? What do you practically do?
Well, you have to pray.
Yeah.
You definitely have to pray a lot. And then like what Zach's saying, you just try to be as active as possible. You try to prepare for when the waiting is over, and and then live in the present. You live in the here and now.
Yeah.
I think there's that also is incredibly important, is to live in the here and now. Because when you idealize, especially when you're idealizing the future, right? So say like the situation where I am now is like I don't know what the future holds, but I'm hopeful, and I have this vision. Oh, I'm gonna have a great job, and then Claire can quit her job and she can stay home with the kids, and like life will be perfect. But like when you do that, it's like, well, I'm not living here anymore. Like I'm angry that I'm here, and so does that make me a better dad? Does that make me a better husband when I'm just angry that I'm not somewhere where we're not? And so I think that is also a really important part of waiting, especially when you don't know where the outcome will be, when you may not have control of the future. Like obviously in like a pregnant scenario, it's like, well, how it's going to end, and at least know a little bit of what it's going to look like. But when you're in a period that's like, I don't know what it's going to look like, you have to live in the here and now, and prepare when you can, but then also not live in the future.
Yeah.
Then you're missing out on so much, which is what I've just learned in the past couple of months, probably, is how I need to recognize that I'm given this time for a purpose, and I have to embrace it while it's here, not necessarily lay back and sit and just throw my hands up, but be better in the moment.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean,
you got so go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say that I'm living through a similar thing right now. Obviously not as long. Like I haven't been to that point yet, not as long, but I'm trying to find my next path in life too, and like trying to find a job, and not knowing where it's going to be. And so that someone once told me though that even in this, like, aim for the future, but as you're saying, not live in the future, like don't wait to live your life type of thing. So like don't say, oh, my life will finally be complete and happy when I get this or that, or if life goes this way or that way, or else, once again, living in the future and thinking it's like when we get to this point we'll be great, and instead of just being like, we're going to be great right now with what we got, and like we'll get where we get to. So I have a problem too with living in the future. Like I've had that problem a lot too. I fantasize a lot and like think that like this is the way it needs to happen and to fold out, and I'm also trying to like wean myself off of that a lot more, because then also you feel like things need to be a particular way or perfect or whatever, and so trying to let go of that.
And I feel like that's a common thing. I feel like everyone kind of goes through that at some point, because we get in just our upbringing is long periods of waiting to the next thing, and we keep finding ourselves in these limbos of like, okay, well, once I get to middle school, once I get to high school, once I get to college, once I find a girl,
everything will be great,
and then from then on it's just like your whole life is waiting for the next thing, and then all of a sudden you're dead.
It's over.
So it's like, yeah, it's just really important.
Well, if you go to heaven, then it is the best thing.
Right. It's true. But I've lived that way my entire life, like literally my entire life. I've always felt like, like I'll be happy next year. I'll be happy when I graduate. I'll be happy when I have kids. I'll be happy when when I have my life together, as opposed to just embracing where I am now and then seeing the things that actually make me happy.
Yeah.
And then loving that, and embracing that, and being thankful, being grateful for it, as opposed to just being like, it's not enough yet. It's not enough yet. Like,
yeah.
I'm bringing these big top. I'm sorry, man.
Hey, you didn't lose that train of thought, brother.
I have a lot on my heart, man.
No, go for it.
I agree. You got to pray, pray to make it through the day. But also, we're actually doing this currently right now, and even streaming it to the world. Converse with a friend, or at least make it public. this waiting period is, and have them help you through the process. A series of talks, accountability is something that can help you keep grounded, of course, in your talks with God, but just making it public into the world too can make all the difference too.
Yeah. And remember two things. Like, number one, God made a lot of people wait in the Bible. Like, the Bible is filled with waiting, filled with waiting. I mean, Abraham had to wait. Like, first of all, example of people not waiting, when Abraham didn't wait to have Isaac, then the whole Ishmael thing, and then that kind of like muddied the works a little bit. Or like Jacob was supposed to wait to get the birthright, but then he took things into his own hands, and that caused a mess.
Yes.
Like the Israelites had to wait to come back from exile, or well, first of all, to leave Egypt, and then after Egypt they had to wait to come back from exile, and then after that they had to wait for the Messiah. Like, there's a lot of waiting. Even Jesus had to wait 30 years of his life to start his ministry. Like, there was a lot of waiting. Everyone had to wait 3 days for him to come back. Like, there's just so much waiting in the Bible. Like waiting has a very important purpose, because God has made most of the important people in biblical history do it for one reason or another. Now, we don't always know why. You could
say even in this season right now, we're waiting for the second coming.
Exactly. And that kind of brushes on, like, my second point is that all of us are in the midst of a waiting. We're all waiting to go home. Like, we're all waiting to go to heaven, hopefully. I mean, like, we're all waiting to go home. We're all waiting to be called home. And we don't know how long it's going to be. That might be one of the things that people are like, well, maybe I don't want that to come so quickly. But like, this idea is that we're all in this indefinite amount of waiting. Like, it could be tomorrow. It could be one of us tomorrow. It could be all of us tomorrow, because the rapture could happen or something or whatever. And then like all of us are going to be like, all of us could go. But like, we don't know. That's the thing. Like the thief coming in the night, like, we don't know the time or the hour that things are going to happen. So we always have to be ready. So that's the other thing about thinking too much about the future. It's like, we don't even know how much future we're going to get. So you might as well enjoy the present right now. So not to be a Debbie Downer on anyone, but just recognize too that we're all in this period of waiting, and that your waiting here is reflecting your greater waiting for something bigger, for God, for heaven. Like, we all, but that doesn't mean we should all sit on our butts and do nothing and be like, all right, God, whenever you're ready.
Or succumb to the vices just because we can. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. If you're, like I said before, like if we're in that waiting season, it means that God is preparing you and others for something huge.
Yeah, and for all of us, the hugest thing, the best thing, himself. Like, so he's preparing us for himself here. This is like I don't want to say the proving ground, but more like the molding ground. Maybe that's better. I don't know. But yeah, so waiting is part of being human. We exist in time. And one day when we get to heaven and that there is no time anymore, we're outside of time, we won't have to wait anymore. Waiting will not have to be a thing.
True.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's just the thing. So anybody who's listening, just remember that, God asked a lot of the most important biblical people in history to wait. So it's, so if he's making you wait, then you're probably pretty important. And that means everybody listening, because we're all important. So in your everyday life, embrace some waiting here and again.
Make your best friend.
Do it.
Make you your best friend.
Yeah. Doesn't mean you have to wait like unnecessarily long all the time for everything, but train yourself a little bit. Decide not to watch the whole season in one day. Decide to wait until the end of the day to have dessert. I don't know, something like that. Just be patient. Or
there's a reason we had cliffhangers back in the 90s and TV shows, so we could go see the next episode. The waiting was good.
Or wait till you have enough money to buy something instead of just putting it on credit and going into debt. Oh, that's a whole nother problem that has to do with waiting. As a financer, okay. But anyway, we're not going to go into that. This isn't a finance podcast. But yeah. One thing we don't want you to wait for is to follow us on all of our social media and our media outlets. So at Seizing Valor, if you want to follow us on Instagram, share this podcast with as many people as fast as possible. Don't make them wait. Don't make them wait to hear our lovely voices. Send them to YouTube or Spotify. And if you want to interact with us, send us an email, seizingvalor@gmail.com. If you want to have a conversation, or you have a prayer intention, or just you want to say whatever, all right, we'd love to hear from you. Yeah, and also check out we have some shorts now on YouTube, which is awesome, which I feel like is feeding into our instant gratification world, but that is okay. Use it to listen to the long stuff. Yeah, use it to listen to the longer stuff that requires more attention span.
Well,
But
you can easily skip on YouTube anyway to the juicy stuff if you want to. So we make it easier for you.
Yes.
You're welcome.
So all right. So yeah, follow us, send us to other people, and we love all of you. Joe, end us in prayer.
All right. Father God, thank you for being our source of strength, to be a true light into this world. You provide a way for us to know you and continue to draw to you. God, I ask you that you would guide us. Show us the path that we should take. Keep us from making decisions that would disappoint or disobey you, especially in these periods of waiting where we might feel angry at you, where we might feel angry at the world, that it's not working out according to our plans. But our plans, you laugh at them, God, for a reason, because you gear us up for something that is truly bigger. You're here for us no matter what we face, God. Thank you, Father, for that we might take refuge in you. Help us to come before you humbly with agency. Give us the courage, God, to surrender our concerns in this period of waiting, especially, and trust you with the outcome. And I pray also for Josh and Zach in their period of anxiety, that they would feel a sense of comfort in knowing that you have the best plan for them, and the best plan for their families, and the best plan, and that they would trust in the outcome that you would have for them. In Jesus' mighty name, amen.
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 All right. Well, we can't wait to see all of you next week, but we still will, because it's good for you. So
we can't wait, but it's got to happen.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
Got you there.
Signing off.
Bye.
See all your beautiful ears next week.
See you later.